Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, and this is episode number 49. I'm your host, Rod Bloom, and with me today is Chad P., one and only Chad Patterson. How are you, Chad?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. We made it through the draft.
We did, thankfully.
Yeah, I think we always talk about it being our Super Bowl and all this stuff. It's kind of turned into almost a joke for Browns fans, but yeah, I think overall, uh, with some of the drafts we've been through, I think we should all be pretty happy with it. And we're gonna break it down and kind of give our thoughts on it here. But overall, definitely, I would say worth the wait. So
Agree.
yeah. Um, I'm drinking a beer tonight, so we're gonna do Blitz beverages. I just went to a standard. I'm drinking a Stella Artois, if we want to be fancy, or we could just say I'm drinking a Stella. Okay, it's a beer that I like, and I have a few of these in my fridge, so uh, just a nice, relaxing beer. I gotta say, I don't know. Some people say this is a skunky beer. I don't really get that out of it. I just think it's a smooth drinking beer. Very easy to drink. It's not a beer that's going to hit you real hard or anything. It's just if you just want to relax with a beer that's kind of easy to drink, uh, nice taste to it. For me, I like a Stella, so that's what I'm drinking tonight. Chad, I don't think you're drinking anything of the alcoholic nature, but do you have anything that you're working on tonight?
Um, Not really tonight. My next project is not. No, I'm just drinking water. My next project is
Or
going to be a breakdown of the wide receiver group, I think.
gotcha. I think everybody's going to be waiting on that because, yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we all got a nice surprise after the draft with Rashard Higgins
Yes, we
signing.
did.
So yeah, so we'll get there. Let's start off just by talking about the draft. I think everybody knows all the picks that were made, so I thought we'd kind of run through it real quick, just kind of give our thoughts. Uh, you know, Kind of how the picks hit us as they were made, kind of what we were thinking before each pick and things like that. So. Um, what was your initial impression when they called Jedrick Wills uh, at pick 10? I mean, we had three tackles on the board. If you're like me, you probably had one guy you were hoping it would take,
Yep.
and
And Andrew Thomas.
yeah, you were hoping for Andrew Thomas, but he's gone.
Right.
So you're probably hoping for one out of the three guys that was left. So
Actually, I was the oddball out on this.
who were,
My opinion was that if the Browns were going to invest in a right tackle to play left tackle, I personally liked Isaiah Wilson a little more than Jedrick Wills. Personal opinion. And I am against the grain against everybody else in the entire football planet because they all agree that Wills was the best tackle available for the Browns to take. Maybe not even at 10, but overall.
mm-hmm.
So I was kind of vocal about this through the whole process. My opinion is different from everybody else's, and I want to be so wrong on this. I think Jedrick Wills could work into being a starting tackle. There's no doubt in my mind that at some point in time he is going to be an NFL high caliber starting tackle. I'm just not sure that he's going to be ready to do that week one. So that was kind of
That's
my
tough.
thing.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, and I
He'll be
understand that. I mean, the more I looked at these guys, I mean, Andrew Thomas was probably the only guy I thought could really come in and start at left tackle.
Yep.
Right off the bat, just from what I heard. And I'm not an expert at analyzing tackle play to know, specifically how a college, how these guys are going to go from college to the pros. I know it's a jump, and you're going against a lot better players, and um, then you throw in a position change. But I think, the more I've learned about Jedrick Wills after this, because, it was my thought that he was going to be playing right tackle in the NFL. So I really didn't think the Browns were going to take him. I thought it was going to be one of the other two guys. So I was kind of disappointed when the pick came in. But the more I looked at it and the more I heard about him, I thought, well, they must know what they're doing. And
Right.
it sounds like a really like a smart pick.
Honestly, I thought the Arizona Cardinals were going to jump all over it. I mean, they need a right tackle, and that was a seamless transition. And
Yeah.
when you're playing you're right. I cannot analyze NFL tackles like Joe Thomas. I can't. I'm not.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not Joe Thomas. The man knows way more about football than I do. But what I can do is look at the statistics and the odds, and that would have been a great transition for them to take him and put him in at right tackle. Seamless. Boom. He's ready to go. And I was honestly shocked when they passed on him. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But once again, I also understood the Browns taking him at 10. You have to balance that. You can't pass up players like this.
Right.
When but here's the one thing that kind of got me through this whole process is that you remember how you can't start a quarterback right away because you'll ruin him.
Mm-hmm.
But you can start an offensive lineman right away and you won't ruin him.
Well, we'll see what they end up doing. It
right.
sure sounds like they're going to start him day one.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. And I apologize. It just slipped my mind. Andrew Berry was just on with, I think it was Golick and Wingo.
Mm-hmm.
And he sounded very confident that Jedrick Wills is going to start week 1 for the Browns. Now, on the other hand of this, and I said this in a post, is that I'm not used to the Browns having the high caliber coaching staff that we have now. He's going to start next to Joel Bitonio, who is one of the best guards in the NFL. He's got J.C. Tretter, who is one of the best centers in the NFL. And when your two teammates beside you are two of the best in the NFL, you've got one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. I'm going to guess that the learning curve gets cut in half, and that with his athletic ability, he will be able to make that transition.
Yeah, and you would think that they're going to try to help him out a little bit at the beginning of the season in particular. He's going to have some help over their blocking initially.
Yeah, and then they do have Kendall Lamb, who, if need be, can start at left tackle to give Wills a minute to kind of get ready if the season's shortened to the point where he doesn't get just enough time to get in there. The Browns are not without an outlet to help them smooth out this transition and for him starting. But if he starts and he's a win, this is a home run pick, because this means that we don't have to worry about left tackle for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to be Joe Thomas. He can be, he can just be, just a very good left tackle.
Right. And a fullback helps. Yeah, fullback helps tremendously, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So, understand the pick. I'm glad they made it. I'm glad that they felt comfortable to make it. And obviously that's who they wanted, because it took them, 2 seconds to turn that card in?
Yeah. Yeah, not long at all. Right. Yeah, that happened on several of their picks. Very decisive.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think just before we get too much further into the draft, we have to really appreciate what Andrew Berry was able to do before the draft, so that the draft was used exactly for what it's meant to be used for. And that he was not pigeonholed into, I've got to have this player because I didn't get X in free agency to fill a massive hole that we had. Honestly, if we wouldn't even had to draft this year at all, say they would have canceled it, no players got selected, the Browns were ready to play football week 1 after free agency. Winning football.
That's true. Yeah, you think if they don't sign Conklin, are they seriously looking at taking a tackle with each of those first two picks. You
Right.
know, what are they going to do? So yeah, definitely put him in a spot to take. They still wanted to target some of these positions, but it really did put him in a position to be able to take the best players that they wanted.
Right, and like I was saying, they were able to take not only the best player on the board for them, a player of need, but he doesn't absolutely 100% have to start week one.
That's right.
I mean, that's what you want him to do, and that's what a first and second round pick should do. They should challenge for a starting spot on the roster. But if they can't do it, the team's not going to be hurt by either one. I tell you, Andrew Berry has been so impressive from day one of getting this job. It's just amazing what he's been able to do.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really find fault with anything he's done up to this point. And people are going to pick on some of these picks and some of the trade downs and that, but you really can't criticize a draft. You really can't criticize a draft. Let's put it that way. People are giving grades out, and I'll give my thoughts on that in just a little bit here. But yeah, it's just a little bit early there. So let's move on to pick number 41. And pick number 41 comes up, and they've got all kinds of choices there. And I'm sure you had your guy, and then you see that they trade down. What was your thought at the trade down before you even found out what they got for that trade down?
I was kind of torn because once again, if you go back to I had three players on the top of my list at the beginning of this season that I really loved, and it was Isaiah Simmons, CeeDee Lamb, and Grant Delpit. Delpit was sliding, and once again, I put that in our post. I really want a linebacker, but if Delpit's there, how do you pass up on him? And he was there. They passed, moved back, and I was like, okay, obviously they know something that I don't know. So that wasn't the pick that really bothered me too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of understand. I honestly, I thought, well, obviously they know something that I don't know. So I didn't, I was fine with it when they did it.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I wanted Antoine Winfield over Grant Delpit. I'm over it. Grant Delpit's a Brown, and
right.
and I'm his biggest fan now. So it doesn't matter to me, and I trust that the Browns know a heck of a lot more about which guy was better than I do. So it's done. But if you look, the Browns end up trading down from 41 to 44. They presumably still get their guy. I'm sure that that they wanted Delpit, and they end up adding pick number 160, which turned into Nick Harris, the center. So so they pick up that fifth rounder, an extra pick. So it seems like it worked out really well for him.
Yep. And I'll get to Nick Harris when we get to him later in the draft if you want, unless you want me to do it right now.
Yeah, we can get to him. We'll get to him there.
Okay.
So then the third round, the Browns again drop, and I think this is where some people got a little bit upset, didn't like this move. The Browns dropped from 74 to 88, and we have a question on this, which we'll give credit for later. But this was when Zach Bond is sitting there, and I think a lot of people like him. I like him. I understand that he's really a luxury pick. The guy's not a traditional linebacker. He's more a disruptive guy who's gonna be like an edge type of player. But he was sitting there. The Browns trade the pick to the Saints. The Saints end up taking Bond, and the Browns. The Browns throw in their seventh rounder, and the Browns pick up a third rounder for 21, which is pretty nice compensation to drop down. And then the Browns end up with the pick of Jordan Elliott, which has been a pretty highly praised pick in and of itself. So, kind of in that sequence, where did you stand on on passing on Bond, on the trade down, and on Jordan Elliott?
When it originally happened, I posted on Twitter that it was the first move that Andrew Berry's made that I completely disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
I still completely disagree with it. I would have taken Zach Bond. There was no doubt in my mind. I would have taken him. I would have put him at Sam linebacker, and I would have never worried about it. There's a reason why the Saints traded up to get him. Daniel Jeremiah said it was the smartest. It was the smartest value pick of the draft. He had a first round grade on him. He had a chance to get a player of need with a first round grade in the third round. We talk about you have to take the players that are there when they're available. Excuse me. And to me, that was the pick they should have made. Now, do I hate the Jordan Elliott pick? No, I do not. Do I hate the composition of turning a 7th round pick into a 3rd round pick? Absolutely not. That is outstanding.
I mean, yeah, the trade was great. It's a matter of the players and where you stand on the players that we ended up with compared to the players that we could have had.
Right, but then it goes into the next question. What don't I know? What don't I know that what is Barry possibly thinking that he's going to do when players start getting cut from other teams? There's a few other players out there that are in free agency. If I don't, and this is when I've had time to calm down and think about it. Yes, I would have taken Zach. There's no doubt in my mind. I would have taken him. But what if Barry already has another plan to put somebody else in that position that is equal to or better than or fits the team better? And then I kind of go to the next step was we got to remember they had to get Joe Woods from the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Woods was most likely going to step in when Robert Saleh, I'm sorry about pronouncing his name wrong. Robert Saleh is going to end up getting a head coaching job here very soon. It won't surprise me if it's not in another year.
Right.
Joe Woods was going to step into a team that's Super Bowl ready as a DC. So I imagine that they're allowing Joe Woods to have a lot of input into his defense, as they should. And maybe this is Joe Woods saying, look, here's what I need to work in my system. So it's kind of easy to step back and be critical, but I also have to realize I don't have all the information because they're not going to give it to us. They keep that stuff in-house. So I'm willing to let this play out and see where it goes. But I was pretty upset at the time because I really wanted him, and I thought he would have been a great addition at Sam linebacker. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought he was the pick, and I was kind of surprised by the trade down at that point. We've seen this before as Browns fans. It doesn't normally work out well for us when we finally get there and the guy's sitting there, and then we trade out. It's just kind of been a way of life for us. But this seems to be the only spot in this draft where we kind of feel that way.
Right.
Where we really didn't end up with our guy. So we'll have to see how it plays out. We'll have to see how, what Zach Bond turns into in the NFL, and we'll have to see how the Browns linebacking core shapes up when all is said and done, and how Joe Woods' defense, works out as well. And we're going to kind of piggyback on that. We're kind of not putting a lot of talk in on Jordan Elliott, but the next pick then was Jacob Phillips, who was the linebacker that the Browns drafted, and this was kind of he did not get a lot of love. Browns did not get a lot of love for making this pick either. So this is kind of where that middle of the draft where the Browns seemed to do really well with the first 2 picks, and then people started questioning things on the 2 third rounders, and then I think probably the rest of the draft, I think people kind of saw things as going back the other direction a little bit stronger. But Jacob Phillips, and we're going to get into some questions on him, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on him here.
Okay.
But another LSU guy, led the team in tackles, and I think the whole issue is I don't know how many people really know exactly what he is yet. I've seen all things about whether he can cover or not. He seems to me like he's a very athletic guy. He's 21 years old. Most of these guys are 20, 21. They're so young, and I think that was part of the Browns' strategy is to draft mostly younger guys. And I think these guys are going to have a lot of room for growth. So I think he's got a chance to be something. I think you just got to kind of step back and kind of give him a chance. So what was your thought with just the pick itself for Jacob Phillips?
I really didn't understand it because I thought we already had this player in Taki Taki. To me, they're the kind of like the exact same player. I don't hate the pick at all, but for me, they're kind of like the same guy. And then now it's come out that they're both kind of projected to play the will position. So now we've got a little battle going on between them. It's just one of those things. He was a nice filler for two really good other linebackers that got drafted in the first, that ended up getting drafted in the first round. I wasn't sure if Queen did or not. I couldn't remember, but so, he's just kind of one of those guys. You're betting on his upside. That's exactly what you're betting on, his upside. Barry had made a comment about his coverage skills, and actually they've not been that great. So obviously they see Phillips as a guy who has a super high ceiling and will grow into the position. And I'm going to guess this is a player that Joe Woods must have really wanted. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about these linebackers, it gets me to a point of kind of wondering the whole what's important in Joe Wood's defense and building his defense. Okay, if you look at San Francisco, it's building that stout defensive line and the secondary primarily, and I think that's what the Browns have tried to do. And then you look at linebackers in an analytics, from an analytics viewpoint, are supposed to not be that important. That's the word anyway. So I'm kind of wondering if these two things are kind of coming together, and the Browns are kind of grabbing some guys to play linebacker, but it's just not as important as it would be for some other teams.
But we have to remember Joe Woods hasn't hasn't played the Ravens twice a year either.
Well, it's true. I'm not saying it's going to work.
Right. And that's what, so and now I'm not saying the man can't watch tape. I mean, he's watched tape, but so we're kind of just going off of a guess because we don't know what his defense is going to look like yet.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Mack Wilson's going to take a massive jump this year. Massive. He's got the bugs out. He's ready to go. He's been with the team. I absolutely love Mack Wilson. I would have taken him in the second round last year.
Yeah.
I've never had any doubt about him at all, and I'm ready to see him take that next step. So what I believe is going to happen at some point in time, and this is just a complete speculation guess, I don't know anything at all, that they're going to look to add one more veteran linebacker at some point in time to kind of help mentor these younger guys through this process. Because if you look at the overall linebacker room, it could be a little bit stronger with another veteran to kind of help out. But they got some great young talent.
And BJ Goodson's he's played, but he's probably not a guy who's going to be out on the field all the time. just because of his skill set.
Right.
So, hopefully he'll help. But yeah, they definitely still feel very, very young. So, yeah, I agree. It would be nice to see him add another guy. Um, I'm not sure who that would be, but we,
But
we
see,
have
we
a.
don't even, yeah, we don't even know who's available, who's going to be available yet, because guys are still going to get released.
Well, that's true. That's true. So, yeah, definitely a shot at potentially adding somebody there, and maybe that's what the Browns know. Maybe they've done enough work that they kind of have a feeling about how many guys are going to be released at certain positions. It wouldn't surprise me.
No, not at all. And it wouldn't surprise me even if it came, a little bit later into the season. It's not necessarily that somebody is going to have to be added day one. They may
Mhm.
they may find somebody a little later that they like too. So,
That's true.
uh,
That's a good point.
I'm excited. I trust what Andrew Berry's doing. The man's the most intelligent man in football, in my opinion. I've liked him from day one. So I don't feel that he's done anything. Not that I have any right to second guess Andrew Berry, because I don't, but he's not done anything enough that I feel like I should not trust him
Right.
to be able
Right.
to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. So Harrison Bryant taken in the fourth round, tight end, and I got messages from people right away. Njoku's gone. He's done. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. I mean, you're playing in a two tight end system. It's okay to have three good tight ends on a team. It's all right. So, this guy was a top-rated tight end with some people, and the Browns pick him up in the fourth round. He's a guy who really has a chance I would say he has a chance to make an impact in his rookie season.
He's gonna be huge. This was a no-brainer steal of the draft. You had to take him there.
Yeah,
Not only do we want two good tight ends, honestly, we want four tight ends because of how valuable they're going to be in this set. And we watched Njoku get hurt last year
right.
for the first time, and I can't remember how many years. The Browns can have an injury, an illness, anything, and not fall completely apart because of that one player having whatever happens. I mean, we also have to realize we're going into a year where we have this virus just wreaking havoc on our country. And what if one of the players gets sick? He's going to be quarantined from the team. He's going to miss games. You're down for 14 days, period, just for having a
He's going to be
fever
out for
most
a
of it.
month. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right.
it's a month. Yeah,
So why would we want the number 3 tight end to not be a high caliber player when
right.
it's this important in the offense? And to get him, he can block, he can catch, he's an outstanding route runner. There's nothing to not 6'5", 243 pounds. I mean, what would you not like about the kid?
Yeah,
He's outstanding.
yeah. And in this part of the draft, it's where the Browns were able to just say, you know what, we feel like we've got everything we need. We're going to take just the best player from here on out, the player that we
Yes.
want from here on out. And he was the first guy. It's like we don't have to reach for another safety or anything else here, or we don't need another. We don't have to have a guard here. So we're going to take this tight end because he's the best player on the board.
By far, yes, and he was. Not only the best player on the board at the pick, it was a major need for this football team. And while I do love Pharaoh Brown, and I don't ever mean to say anything negative about any player that's on our football team, because I wish all 90 could stay every year. But the fact is that Pharaoh Brown has played for 3 years, and you think he has something like 3 catches or something like a very low number of catches.
Yeah.
And
That's
if they need to challenge him, and and wouldn't it be great if Pharaoh Brown steps up and beats out Brian for the starting job? It just means we've got a player who's excelled. It was a motivator, and the Browns still win because they get a better player coming out.
it's true. That's true. And then it continued in the fifth round with Nick Harris. So let's get your thoughts on him, because
Okay.
he was another very a lot of people said, you know what, steal of the draft when this pick was made. So that was 2 picks in a row. I was feeling pretty good at this point, I have to tell you.
Okay, so long time ago, before this draft even happened, just going through my processes, watching some other stuff, I had posted a tweet that said, I hope someday the Browns are in a position that they can draft a player like Nick Harris to sit on the roster, doesn't need to play day one, and grow with the team. When they made this pick, I was just jumping for joy. This kid is absolutely phenomenal as a prospect. And to get him in the fifth round, he should have been taken in late second or early third. Technically, he's probably 6 weeks away from being a starter into the season. And we now have the best center in the NFL with J.C. Tretter, and we have what I felt was the best center prospect in this draft sitting right behind him. And when is the last time that the Browns have had that kind of depth at the center position?
Crazy. Yeah, I sure couldn't tell you.
And then once again, it ties right back into, we are in a crazy time right now with this virus. We don't know what could happen going into the season. Who could get sick? The Browns have to be ready for that, because they're not going to give an allowance for this. I don't see the NFL saying, look, there's a possibility you could lose 4 players. And this is a real possibility that we have to think about. The Browns could lose 4 players in one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quarantined. Well, you still only have a roster of 55 players. So, I mean, this was, for me, now, when you look at like total value of the draft, I believe Nick Harris was the best value pick that they could have made of all of them. So I'm excited, but once again, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome that you tweeted about that before and named him specifically.
Yeah. And just for
That's
instance,
great.
here's a wonderful stat for you. In 2018, he played 911 snaps and he gave up 0 sacks, 1 hit, and 7 hurries. I mean,
That's not so bad. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no. I'm excited about it. I'm excited because all I see is that we finally have center locked down for the next 10 years. And after what we've been through at the center position from not that long ago, it is just so exciting to have JC and Nick Harris.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah, definitely. And I guess he'll probably be in the competition for that right guard spot. I guess we'll see what happens there. That's going to be interesting. See what happens. But I think we can feel pretty good that we're going to have somebody. We're going to have a quality guy out there playing right guard too.
Yes, and then not only that, but we have depth all the way down. I mean, we've got quality starters, and then we actually have players right behind them that can step right in at each position: right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle.
Yeah.
We went from not having anybody to we were pulling guys off the street to play different offensive positions. Now we have great depth, both at starter and backup, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and then let's go to the sixth round. I thought the Browns were probably going to take a wide receiver earlier, but you know what? I would rather. I really thought the Browns were going to take a wide receiver in the fourth, but they may have been thinking that, and Harrison Bryant was still there. So he really just fits the roster even better.
Right.
So it's just as well, that they got the tight end there. Um, People were screaming for Peoples Jones all through the draft, and the Browns took him in the sixth round. Um, a lot of different thoughts on this guy. He underperformed in college, but he's such a gifted athlete, pure spark guy. And I think the Browns are just kind of swinging for the fences with this guy, and it's either going to be a whiff or a home run. So what are your thoughts on him?
Um, when I say this, it's going to come across as being a Buckeye homer, just because I can't help it. I would have taken KJ Hill, just my personal opinion.
Yeah,
But I
I think a
also,
lot of people were. Yeah.
and it's nothing against Donovan at all. That's just my personal opinion. Now, past that, they did take him. I like the young man. He's fast. He's got a lot of skill, and he was with what I don't believe was a program that fit him the best, and still managed to be productive. So, well worth a pick. I mean, for the sixth round, I felt that he was better than a sixth round pick,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and he had a horrible quarterback, and I know a lot of people are using that as an excuse, and I agree with that excuse. I mean, if your quarterback can't even get you the ball in a decent playing position, I mean, there's not a lot you can do. You can't make it happen. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do, but he doesn't have an easy walk here. Now, I think he's going to be extended a lot further than what somebody else may, because he is a draft pick and he is a sixth round draft pick by
Hmm.
a brand new GM. But there's no cakewalk in our wide receiver room this year. Just because you're on the
No.
team doesn't mean you're going to make it.
No, especially after what happened just a couple days. Yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, with Rashard Higgins being signed, 1 year deal. So yeah, that definitely tightened up the room.
Extremely tight. And it wasn't that we had a bunch of bad receivers on our football team before Higgins was re-signed. Because I'll
No.
tell you right now, if you didn't get a chance to go to camp and watch DJ Montgomery, you don't realize the potential that young man has. He is fascinating. So now, if you take a look, kind of like at our wide receiver room right now, you got Kadero Hodge, who was a huge influence to the special teams,
Yeah.
in a positive way.
Hmm.
They just signed Natson to do kick returns. He's a wide receiver. We're only going to be looking to keep at most 5 because of the way the roster is going to break down. I don't know that they could squeeze in a 6 if you're trying to keep an extra fullback plus enough running back. You see
You
what I'm
think they're going
saying?
to carry two fullbacks?
No, but I think they'll carry 2. They'll carry 3 running backs and a fullback is
Yeah. Oh,
most
I got you.
likely.
Right. Yeah.
Or what they'll do is keep 2 running backs and 2 fullbacks, because okay, so you're going to keep Janovich. Is that how you say his name? Is right, Janovich? I don't want to mispronounce his name. Um, if you
Janovich,
let
yeah, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you're going to keep him. Well, if you let Stanton go, somebody's going to pick him up. You're not going to be able to stash him on the practice squad.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right.
You never know.
So what do? Do you keep Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Janovich, and Stanton? Then you've got 4. Well, that takes away from you being able to have 6 wide receivers, because you're going to keep 10 offensive linemen. I kind of broke this down the other day. So at some point in time, you're going to have to short either the offense or the defense somewhere to keep 6 wide receivers. So you're going to have 5. You got OBJ. He's definitely on the team. Landry's here. I have little doubt that Higgins is not going to be able to win a spot on this football team, let alone he'll be the 3rd wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll be 3.
So now you got this huge battle behind him. It's not going to be easy, especially if you keep Kadero Hodge and Natson.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got Natson, and then you've got Ratley, Hodge,
Right,
and Montgomery, all these guys, and and anybody else, fighting for a spot or two.
right. So then what happens with DPJ? So do they automatically try to keep him on the roster? And then it gets really interesting.
Oh yeah.
So I'm telling you, it's going to be rough making the wide receiver room this year
Well,
for
yeah. Why
anybody.
why draft a guy in the sixth round like that? I mean, you don't expect that guy to be outperforming somebody who's been on the team for 3 years, right? Right off the bat. You expect him to
Yeah.
be kind of a developmental guy his first season.
So it's and you're wondering how this is going to work out if they don't get any kind because the way he makes this football team is going to be on special teams.
Hmm.
If he can beat out Kadero Hodge, then he'll definitely be on the team. But that's
Daryl
no
Hodge
easy
is one of the
task.
top special teams guys probably in the NFL. I mean,
Exactly.
seriously.
Oh, I'm
So good
so
luck with that.
excited.
Yep.
Right, exactly. So I'm so excited to see how this kind of like unfolds through this here and the actual makeup of what the rosters are going to look like. You know, do they go with 6 wide receivers and short somewhere else? But I don't know where because you're going to keep 4 tight ends.
Well, we've talked about it before on this podcast, and having tough cuts to make is strange territory for the Browns, but it's good.
It is
As
good, isn't
painful
it?
as it is, it's good.
And
So
you realize that this also means if you take it one step further, that next year's draft, if everything goes like it should, next year's draft will not be our Super Bowl.
yeah,
It won't because it'll be
yeah,
just wow, cool. What players do we get, and do they even make the team?
that's true. Yeah, yeah. Then you get to where you're looking at your guys in the first 3 or 4 rounds making it, and the other guys are really fighting to even get a spot.
Yeah, they're fighting for practice squad.
Yeah, that's true.
And if Carl Joseph steps up and gets a long-term contract, which from everything I've read, this dude is like motivated to win that safety spot and be with this football team for a long time. Tell me this team is not completely set for a while to where it's going to be so nice. I mean, I just can't give Andrew Berry enough credit for what an amazing job he's done in such a short time.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Just a couple things real quick, and then we're going to get
Sure.
into a few questions. The Browns now have 10 picks for the 2021 draft. They have an extra third, an extra fourth, and an extra fifth next season.
Phew.
So
Wow.
10 picks. 10 guys are not making the team next year. So
Right.
the Browns would definitely be moving around, using those picks, combining, moving up, things like that. I would say, and or maybe using some of those picks to trade, in trades prior to that draft. Who knows? That's potential too. The other thing I wanted to mention is this business about grading drafts. Okay, people are giving grades. I've seen anywhere from an A to a B, in that range for the Browns draft. And guys, I know people have to write columns about this, and it's become customary for people to give letter grades to drafts. For me, you know how I'm going to grade this draft? It's going to be how many of these guys are on the team this season, the following season, and the season after that. Because we have not had guys from the draft stick around for more than a couple years, more than a guy or two.
Right.
You go beyond like Miles and Njoku, and there's really nobody left that we've drafted hardly, much further back than that. There's a few guys, Batonio and a few guys here and there, but
Right.
if we can get 3 years out and there's still out of these 7 guys, and there's still 5 of these 7 guys on this team, that is a successful draft to me, because that means these guys are playing and contributing and growing. So that's how I'm going to grade this draft. We're going to take a short break in the action to thank our sponsors, Skippin' Stones. You can find them at Etsy.com. Do a search for Skippin' Stones, Stonez, and you'll find the store. Guys, it's not too late to help yourself out for Mother's Day. If you haven't gotten out and found anything yet, I understand the situation. You can still have something shipped to you by Mother's Day. Just get on there and you can find handmade stone, shell, and sea glass jewelry, pebble art, and frame poetry. You can also follow Skippin' Stones on Twitter at Skippin' Stones, SKIPPINSTONEZ. Ladies, you can also check out the jewelry. Now let's get right back to the action.
And the way I would grade the draft is probably completely different than the way anybody else would grade the draft, because I wouldn't grade it on the players that were drafted because it's impossible to know. The way I would grade this draft would be, did the Browns do what the draft is meant for, which is round 1, round 2 are players that need to be competing for a starting job on the roster. And then rounds 3, 4, and 5 are players, 3 and 4 are players that need to be competing for a rotational spot on the roster. Mm-hmm. And then 5, 6, 7 are high upside players that have a potential to either make the roster or practice squad. Did they get players that could fill those needs in each one? And for that, I would give Andrew Berry an A, because that's exactly what he did. We have 2 players that should compete for the starting job. We have high value picks, players with high upside from then on that can all the way to the last pick can all compete for rotational spots on our roster. So if you grade the roster on, did Berry do a good job in that aspect? Yes, because I don't believe not one pick was wasted on a player that doesn't have a chance to fight for a rotational spot on this team. But as far as like picking the actual player, it's impossible. You don't know, because you got to see him play in the NFL. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, I agree with you. And obviously, if you can get a guy to move up a category, that's where you're getting your steals. So if you get a guy, in the 5th round that's worthy of starting, then like Mac Wilson or right. Prior year, or Nick Harris or Harrison Bryant eventually, then that's where you're getting your steals. So,
exactly.
So yeah, definitely a great way to look at it. Chad, you ready for some questions?
Sure, I'll do my best.
All right.
I didn't get to see them all, so I'm kind of flying blind here.
Yeah. All right. This is from Jeff, and it's at JXW727. And Jeff, we appreciate the shout out for the podcast, and I appreciate the shout out that you gave me, I think, yesterday as well. So I appreciate both of those. And here's the question. I am in the lonely camp that thinks Jacob Phillips will turn out to be a steal. Would love your guys' thoughts and opinion on him. Well, we've hit on him, but go ahead, Chad. You can go a little bit deeper on him now.
My opinion is that when you look at the overall group that he's going in with, you've got a hungry defensive coordinator that, he is ready to go. He's a young man who's shown to have a lot of talent coming from a winning program. And I don't think that you can undervalue that for these kids coming into the NFL. I mean, when you're coming off a program like that, you're coming into a team that's hungry. He's hungry to learn, and he's got friends already on the football team that he wants to impress, because he doesn't want to come in and be the odd man out. When you've got OBJ, you've got Jarvis Landry, you've got Delpit. You don't want to disappoint these guys. I honestly believe this young man's going to work his butt off to be great for this football team. And I do agree. I believe there's a real chance. While I wanted Zach, I do believe Phillips has a chance to become a major steal for this football team.
Yeah, I agree. And from what I've seen, he's athletic. He's he's a sure tackler. That's for sure. He doesn't miss
Yes,
tackles. That's a great quality to bring to the NFL. Something I'm excited to see, on the field. We've had a few guys in Cleveland who, who that is not necessarily their forte. So
yes,
the more guys we can bring in who can tackle, the better. So yeah, I'm excited about him. I think we've got the makings of a good young core, and I'm excited to see how the core grows. And like we said, hopefully, it'd be nice if they can bring in a vet, but if not, some of these guys are going to grow up fast this season, I believe.
I agree with you.
Next question is from Steve B. It's at Steve uh, at Steve Bonenkamp, and Steve, I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Appreciate all the interaction that we do with each other. And his question is, do you think with the changes on defense that we should see some consistent improvement against the run? Chad, what do you
Yes,
think? Yes.
yes, yes, yes. I love our front four. I think I am so excited to see these guys get to play together. Um, we don't get weak in the front four until you're getting into the third team.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't remember the last time that I've been this excited with the quality of players that we have starting at defensive end and defensive tackle. The only weak link that I see right now is Chad Thomas, and I honestly believe he's going to get beat out by Porter Gustin. And when you look at that, we're going to have Olivier Vernon strong. The team has shown him, hey, we believe in you. We've had multiple chances. They could have cut Olivier Vernon. It would have cost them a dime, and they could have just moved on. They've said, we want you to be a part of this team. And a motivated Olivier Vernon opposite Myles Garrett is going to be so nasty. I can't wait. I'm excited. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think adding Andrew Billings, and we'll see how much of an impact Jordan Elliott has as a rookie in the rotation, but because they've got other guys too at DT, and just having I think Adrian Claiborne's a nice pickup too. And we'll see if it's Chad Thomas or somebody else backing up. But you've got such a strong rotation all along that defensive line. I think it's going to be fun to watch, and yeah, I think they're definitely going to be better against the run this season. So appreciate that question, Steve. And now, sorry guys, I need to scroll to the next question. This is from Johnny B. Baseball and Browns, and that is at Playball JB. Do you think the Browns will sign any veteran linebackers? We seem to be a little young in that area, and we've kind of been talking about this throughout the show. Johnny, I looked, and I think there's some free agent linebackers out there, but I don't know if any of them are going to be signed right now. I think it's more likely that the Browns would make a signing after the cuts are made, like Chad was talking about. So we'll kind of see what happens. And like he said, it could even be after the season, or at some point during the season. So I think it's really hard to come up with a name of who they could bring in. But, if the Browns really feel like they're going somewhere this season, I think that could be a spot where they feel like they could still upgrade.
Yep, I agree with that. I think he's going. Well, we just found out today, Field Yates, I think it was. There was a player cut. I'll have to go back. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it just totally skipped my mind. They did put a claim in for a linebacker today. The Bengals ended up getting him. So that shows us right now that yes, the Browns are actively right now trying to add another linebacker to this group.
They're looking. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. All right, this is from Watermarked. It's at Watermarked04. And we've kind of covered this too. I have to apologize. It was kind of hard to work in all the questions while we were going through everything, but was passing up on Zach Bond in the third a mistake. And I know that Chad feels it was a mistake. I thought it was a mistake at the time. For me, I've got to see. It kind of goes back to like the Carson Wentz trade, guys. I've got to see if I've got to see what that third round pick next season turns into, and
Right.
and we got to see what Jordan Elliott turns into.
And we're
It's real hard to tell right now.
Yeah, and like I said, being completely honest, we don't know all the details. So while I may agree that it was a miss now, we may find out 2 months from now, oh, now I understand why.
Yeah,
So
you're right. There's
I don't
always
want
stuff
to
that we don't know about. Yeah.
exactly. So I don't want to be too hard on because I'm a little biased. I did really like him. I wanted him on our football team. I was
Hmm.
pounding the table for him. So I got to try to temper that with I don't know everything, and we have to see what happens.
Yeah, I love this question. This is from Juan, and it's at Cavs fan 2423. And two-parter. Do you think that Baker can have a bounce back year? I'm going to say yes. I think the offense. I think the offense should take a lot of pressure off him. I think he's going to come in with a different mindset this season. They're going to run the ball a bunch. He's going to have a lot of nice passes to the tight end. So I think it really sets up well for Baker this season. Do you agree, Chad?
Yeah, and I'll take just a minute here to um, anybody that's following me on Twitter knows that Baker is my dude. He's
Yeah.
been my dude from day one. I've never let up on this. We have to remember it has been a revolving door from day one since this young man was put on this football field. Hugh Jackson did everything in his power to hold him back from
Mm-hmm.
getting the starting job. When day one in camp, you could see that he was 10 times better than Tyrod Taylor. He's had everything against him. He had a coach changing plays in the middle of the game to plays that they weren't even ready for or practiced. He had wide receivers running the wrong routes. He had wide receivers dropping the football. He had a right tackle who couldn't block anybody. He was getting blasted from every which way. I've watched Baker Mayfield play football since he started at Texas Tech. Yes, he's going to have a comeback year if he can just get some consistency to where he can go out onto the football field and just play football.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be any kind of savior. He just needs to go out and be Baker Mayfield, play football, have fun, and he doesn't have to become the head coach of the football team, which finally this year he will not have to do. I hope that made sense the way I said it.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just say we both feel yes, he's poised for a bounce back year. Second part of the question, and my phone just scrolled on me was which
I hate when
was
mine does that.
yeah was which rookie do we think will stand out most this season? And I'm paraphrasing because I've not found my way back to the tweet yet, but kind of a trick question because it has to do with playing time too. But so I guess we're talking about just this season at this point. So I'll let you go first, Chad. Which rookie will stand out most this season?
Grant Delpit.
Okay.
And now I'm people made the mistake of watching the 2019 tape or watching him play in 2019. I'm telling you, Myles Garrett came into the NFL with a high ankle sprain. Nobody said a word. They let it go when he was injured, and it was like, okay, nobody said a word about his production the last year at college with a high ankle sprain. They're not giving Grant Delpit the same leeway. If you go back and watch this young man play in 2018, I'm telling you, I will be crushed if he is not an all-star player right away, because I honestly believe that he is just an outstanding football player. I am so excited to see him on the field because I think he's going to be a game changer for us. And I don't think he was kidding when he said he's going to pick Joe Burrow off twice a year.
Do you think he's gonna? You think he's gonna start week 1?
Oh yeah, I have zero doubt. Yeah, there's no way Redwine's going to beat him for the job. And Zendeo's okay, good veteran and stuff, but no, there's no way. This young man is a rock star. They don't call him Baby Jamal Baby Adams. I think was that how they said it. They don't call him that for no reason at all. I tell you, you got to go back and watch him play in 2018, and you'll be like, holy smokes, how is that even possible? So, yeah, I'm excited. That's who I think is going to have a breakout year for a rookie.
Okay, I'm going to go against the grain just because I just don't. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I just don't know if he's going to start the whole season or not. So we'll see. So I just have a feeling Harrison Bryant's going to have a big season. That he's going to get a lot of action in the games, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he won't play a lot, but just kind of a thought that he's going to make some big catches and be out there. It's kind of hard because, Jedrick Wills may be out there playing week 1. He might be the guy, and really it could be a couple other of these guys too, but, and it very well could be Grant Delpit. He could play all 16 games. And like you said, he could be he could be he could make the Pro Bowl, but, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say Harrison Bryant.
And isn't that great that we can talk about a round 4 pick as being a potential? And I love it.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to say about Jedrick Wills is that I hope that the fan base understands that this young man is about to embark on almost an impossible task of starting week 1 at left tackle.
Yeah.
And I don't care if he is absolutely horrible through this season. I will never say a bad word about the young man because I understand what he is going to try to take on with a shortened mini camp. We don't know what preseason is going to look like and everything. And I just hope that, and this is just my opinion, and take it for whatever it is that we as a fan base, no matter how he plays, that we fully support him, because these younger guys, they're on the social media. They see us. He wants to impress the fan base here. He's happy to be here. He's excited to be here. He reached out to Joe Thomas, and Joe Thomas has told us many times about how guys have come in and they didn't even want to talk to him and didn't give him the time of day. Like they acted like they knew it all.
Who does that? It's Joe Thomas.
Right, exactly. And Jedrick Wills is the exact opposite. He's excited. He's hungry for the information. He's trying his best to do everything right to be a Cleveland Brown. And I really hope that we all give him the time that he's going to need to develop. So I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him his very first year. If you kind of understand what I'm saying there.
I completely understand. It's kind of the approach hopefully we should be taking, a little bit to a little bit lesser degree with the team this season, as we watch Stefanski and the coaching staff and everything kind of come together. You've got to give it a little bit of a chance to kind of let everything kind of come together and blend and start to grow. So you definitely need to give Wills that option. Like you said, he's doing everything right. He wants to be here.
Everything.
Yeah, so he's a Brown. He's here. he's going to be here for a long time. Let's just back this kid, and just no matter what happens.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. So let's see. Next question is from Nick N. Niles. That's at N_Niles. And next question is, have you done any work on the UDFAs yet? There's like 15 of them, Nick. So I believe that's the full count. I've looked them over. I'm not going to pretend I know a whole lot about these guys, but I know the Browns have some guaranteed money to the cornerback AJ Green out of Oklahoma. He's let's see, 6'1", 190. I think most people, including himself, expected him to be drafted. So I think he's got a shot to do something with the Browns. When you get a corner that's that kind of size, I don't think he ran as well as what he expected to. So I think that kind of pushed him down. Didn't, made it so he didn't get drafted in that. But they brought in just an abundance of guys at different positions. The thing with undrafted free agents is you just never know, because these guys will get a shot, and invariably a couple of these guys stand out and end up, sometimes, you get a couple of them making the team. Might be tough this season, but if not, they'll definitely find their way onto the practice squad, and you never know, a season or two down the road, they could definitely be on the roster.
Yeah, I kind of hold off for a little bit before I start really digging into the undrafted free agents, because once again, we're starting to see players cut right now. And because I've built so many rosters over the years, I've learned a valuable lesson. I can build a roster and put it out today, and somebody will get cut off another team, and they'll grab him and release somebody. And I'm putting out another roster the next day to try to keep up.
But we appreciate that, Chad, because it is hard to find a current roster for how fast these things change.
Yeah, and I really do my best to try to stay on top of it. So you'll see me sometimes where I'll kind of just like pause for a minute, because I feel like some moves are coming, and it's a lot of work building these. So that's why I'm kind of going to wait a couple weeks. I want to see what teams are going to do, who's going to be released. I can tell you right now, I think we're way deep on wide receiver. I think a couple guys might not stay there, where they could like add some other players. Do you realize we haven't added a punter or a kicker yet? And I can tell you, after going to training camp for so many years now, it's virtually impossible for one punter and one kicker to do all of training camp. So I think they may be waiting to kind of see how all this plays out. But if we have a full training camp like normal, if it somehow ends up being that way, even if fans aren't allowed to be there, they're going to have to add a punter and a kicker to our roster, because there's just too many reps. It's physically impossible for those guys to do it. So that means two players are going to have to be cut off the roster to make room for those, because you're only allowed to have 90. So that's why I really haven't dug in. I think AJ Green probably has the biggest chance of making the roster, just when you look at the cornerback group overall, and how valuable he was to not only the Cleveland Browns, but to multiple teams that the Browns had to pay what they did. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So yeah, we'll see. Definitely more to come there, because there's still a lot more moves coming, definitely. And I believe this is our last question. I'll scroll to see if we got any others, but this is from Sparky. It's at Sparkman52. And Brownies traded down, and Indy took Wisconsin linebacker Bond. His staff pat and happy with the linebacker group. And I think we kind of just talked about that too. The fact that they put in a claim on a linebacker states that they're not fully happy with the linebacker group. But I think they like a lot of these young guys, but I definitely think they need some experience there too, like you've been saying, Chad.
Yeah, I would just like to see him. I mean, once again, personal opinion. I would appreciate an extra veteran just to be there to kind of help these young kids. Um, Mac Wilson's not ready to take on that role yet. Um, Next year he will be after 2 seasons in the NFL, but he's still young himself. And he's got a lot to learn, and he's our future. I fully believe that Mac Wilson's going to be on this football team for a long time, and I would like to see somebody kind of help him outside of the coaching staff because the coaching staff isn't able to do 24/7 like a player can. So that's
Yeah.
where I would, you know what I mean? And I would just like to see, so he's a, this is how you kind of do this and this is how you do that, especially with how different this season's going to be than a normal season.
Yeah, I agree with you. And yeah, we've got leaders some other places, but yeah, linebacker, they could use somebody. And yeah, I'm confident Andrew Berry will get it done. He's pretty much taking care of everything else. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, and like I said, putting that claim in today means that they're still working.
Yeah.
They're not, they're still working to try to make this team better right now. And as well as it's set up, he's still not giving up. I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Well, I'm not going to get into comparisons or anything, but that's one thing I liked about John Dorsey is he never got to a point where you felt like he was done. And I think we're going to see the same thing out of Andrew Berry. They're always looking. He's always going to be looking to get the team better. And if the opportunity presents itself, he's going to take it. If it presents itself in a fashion that's that's good for the team. He's
Right.
not going to sign every free agent out there and spend every dollar, but but if the right situation comes up, he's going to do it. And just like with Rashard Higgins, I think they probably wanted him back all along, but they wanted it on a very favorable deal, and they waited long enough that they got it.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's Rashad proved that he wanted to be on this football team because he took less money to play here than he did to go somewhere else. Now Higgins actually knows his value. The Browns know his value. They made an agreement on a number that both can live with for this season, and it's fair for both. So, I mean, Higgins doesn't feel like, oh, I should have never signed with the Browns, and I kind of got cheated. He can't say that. And not that he
Yeah.
would, but it was his decision. They were both mutually wanted to be together. And I think that's going to make for a better relationship coming into this season. There's no doubt that Higgins loves being a Cleveland Brown. He loves everything. We all think he's great. The chemistry that he has with Baker is awesome. I'm excited that this deal got done. And if everything works out, I think we can already look into the future and say there's a pretty good chance that they're going to keep him around.
Yeah, I
So,
think, and everybody's going to be rooting for that. I think we'd all love to
right.
see him have a nice season here and sign another contract after this, sign a 2 or 3 year deal after this if it works out that he fits in well as that number 3 receiver. Keep him around. I think we'd all love to see that.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine if we honestly had three wide receivers be on this football team for 3 years in a row together? I, I
How
mean,
many how many years do we just not even have one wide receiver on this team?
I have a Leslie jersey, Leslie Jordan, excuse me, a Leslie jersey. I apologize, I can't talk right now because I was so excited that we had somebody that could catch the football at one
Yeah.
point in time.
Yeah, things turn around fast. So, or things change fast. Let's hope they turn around fast too.
We,
So,
we we went from that to OBJ, Landry, and Higgins,
yeah,
and just, I mean,
in a couple of years.
wow,
So, yeah,
wow.
that's nuts. So, all right. Well, we've gone a little longer than usual, Chad. Do you have any closing words? Anything else you want to cover?
No, just I think we as a fan base should be ready for a couple more moves before we head into the next chapter how this is going to play out. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to thank everybody for the questions, for the support of the podcast, and it's always great talking with you, Chad. Hopefully,
You too.
It's been a while. Hopefully, it won't be so long before we have you back on next time.
Yeah, I apologize. That's my fault. It's been a little nuts in the world and stuff. And I do want to say one more thing too, to all the Browns fans that interact with me every day. You, Browns Access, everybody. We so appreciate that and what you do for us and giving us a voice. It means the absolute world to me. I'm very humbled by it. I hope that I can continue to earn the support of the fans like I have. It's an amazing feeling.
I mean, I feel the same way as to all the fans that support me too, and all the interaction. It's definitely humbling, like you say. So, all right, Chad.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you all next time.